All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Halal Cartels. You know the time. You know who it is. It's Gabe Pacheco.
And Samir Nassim.
Samir, great to see you, buddy.
You too, man. Cartel heads are lighting me up on DMs, by the way.
Really?
Yeah,
Is
things
it
are
all
active.
positive, or are we getting some hate mail? Are we getting some constructive criticism?
Honestly, almost all positive so far. There's this recent couple of weeks, people are like, oh, you guys spoiled. I'm trying to remember what even the thing was. Like, you guys had spoilers. And you know what I think about that is you just got to start watching things more frequently, because I can't describe certain things if I can't fucking tell you what happened. You know
Okay,
what I
I'm gonna try to bite my lip. You're reining me in a little bit because you know me. I'm pro spoiler. If somebody leaked the entire script to the new Predator movie that's coming out, Prey, that is follows around Native Americans who are being hunted by the Predator. It's going to take place in like 18 something or
Oh, hell yeah.
17 something. If somebody leaked that whole script to me, I would read it right now and not feel bad about it.
Fair.
Don't care, because we live in a post spoiler world.
I'm excited about that new Predator movie, actually. I haven't been in a long time. Alien vs. Predator, whatever that became.
So let me tell you a very quick story. I did a ayahuasca ceremony with my siblings, and they gave us they put us on an email thread like a month beforehand and told us to prep for the event. You know, and this is, you can't really, I always think it's absurd that the modern day shamans have spreadsheets and send you chain emails asking us to what our intentions are. And we had a gradual purification of self to go through before the ceremony. Like, don't eat meat for the 2 weeks ahead of time. Don't drink any juices or have sugars the week before. No fruits, things like that. And I think my siblings were very earnest about following these things, and so everyone else was. But I had just fallen into a podcast that was all horror movie reviews, and I was loving this podcast. So I was like listening to reviews of Aliens versus Predator, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just filling my head with all of this garbage. And I was I don't even think it's garbage. I love it all. But classic horror movies. And at the same time, I'm in tandem. I'm watching horror movies the whole time. So the day shows up for the event, and it was like when you haven't done the homework and you're like, oh, God, I thought I could rush the homework in one day. Like the day before, the day of, I drank.
Well, I won't be eating fruits today.
Right. I was like, no sugar today, except for this Cliff Bar I need. And then a bunch of water. And I show up to this yoga studio in Soho, and everybody is dressed all in white. Beautiful people. They look like the affluent Burning Man people, you know? And everyone has their experience, their visions, and whatever. And then they go around in a circle and start disclosing what they'd gone through. And people were just like, this really brought me closer to my dead daughter, or like, this is helping me reconcile, the cancer that's inside of me. And I'm not exaggerating, but I'm not giving away like what really happened. But there were traumatic things that people are talking about during this event, and my journey was just Aztec temples with predators like dabbing on top of them. It was a vibe.
That's amazing. You're like, I'm gonna need a do-over at the end of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Next time I'll bring my trauma to unpack.
Yeah. Oh my
Because
God.
this time I'm just seeing neon chainsaws.
You're like, now I'm not scared of any horror movies.
Yeah, totally. It's like Zippy Totek, the god of springtime, was just juggling chainsaws, and Freddy Krueger was breakdancing.
That's
in my head.
amazing.
So it was great. I don't know how we got there. How's your week been?
It's been cool. It's things are heating up. It's we're in New York in the summertime, and it just went from springtime to summertime within like a couple of days.
2.5 seconds.
Yeah, but now the trash is like becoming an issue. Now like the stink is like popping off on the streets. Things are happening out here, but it's great, man. I love it. I love walking around and seeing like just all the human flesh all over the place. You know what I'm
Sure,
saying?
a carnival
Yeah.
almost. It's not a farewell to the flesh necessarily, but it is a celebration of it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had one thing I like to do in the summertime is I try to really explore different places in the city, like go to different parks or museums. Like I went to the museum of the poster museum, which was great. I saw like some Soviet era posters there, and I went to the Rubin recently. I want to make it up to Fort Tryon again, but this week I went on a old boat that is a fire engine boat, like a fireboat, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's like exactly what 8-year-old me would have wanted. You know how like kids love unicorns and stuff? I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's a fire engine, but it's a boat? What? Like, this is the coolest thing ever. So it was down at Pier, I think it was Pier 66 in the Chelsea Piers area on 23rd Street.
Oh yeah.
There's like a boat restaurant called the Frying Pan. And then right next to it is like the John Harvey, which is this decommissioned fireboat. So we took that. There was an author who wrote the book Island in the Center of the World, which was about the New Amsterdam and the moment that it was transferred to the British, right? Because the British non-violently invaded the island and like took it over, right? Peaceful transfer of power from the Dutch to the British. So I was on that ship for the day. It was dope. I got a sunburn, and I took a picture of myself in front of the Statue of Liberty. As I heard a bunch of like old white people who were on the ship talking about their grandparents and great grandparents coming on Ellis Island, and I just kept thinking about how many people have that story of like immigration and like the Ellis Island story, which is a fine story, but it's super boring. It's not your story. It's like your grandparents.
Right.
And a lot of these people who tell that story now vote Republican. Or like for whatever reason,
They're like, keep them out.
Yeah, they think that like immigration is different now than it was back then. It's like it's a different story. And I'm like, I don't.
And that's the funny thing. They equate it to like, my grandparents came to Ellis Island. They didn't sneak through. You're like, yeah, but they didn't have to sneak through.
Yes.
Just popped on a fucking boat and showed up at Ellis Island.
Yeah, and the conditions that made them have to leave are the same conditions that make people travel around the world now. I don't know. I just think of it as absurd and something. I don't know if you have this story in your family, this narrative, but I saw it somewhere today on social media. Repeated. This narrative is always repeated of like parents telling their kids, especially immigrant parents, about like how hard their struggle was, and then telling their kids every sacrifice they made for their child, for you, for me. Like, and I always feel like it's almost like emotional abuse. It's child abuse to tell your children how hard you struggled for them, because it just fills you with guilt, and that struggle is often posed as though no one helped me at all. I had to do it all by myself. I clawed my way from the bottom of the crab barrel to the top with bloody fingernails. And I slit the throats of all my compatriots to build this small business so that you could go to college. If you believe that narrative, it's just going to make little psycho kids.
Yeah, definitely.
Who then think that the only way is to continue to like replicate that psychopathic behavior pattern, because that's the only way to make it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, my family did the same thing where they talked about the struggles. The one thing they did tell me though was the people who helped them along the way. They made a note of that. But the community I come from is very much that. They're extremely competitive. If they get something or they get put onto something, they're really less likely to ever offer that resource to someone else, because the competitive nature of the community makes people want to be the only one who does a certain thing or makes it to a certain level, because that makes them feel this level of achievement that no one else has accomplished this, which is such a cutthroat and psychotic way to look at things. Because on the other side of the equation, they're like, why don't more people from our community do X or Y or Z thing?
It's a hustle crab scarcity mindset narrative.
Yes.
It is true that we must take individual action and motivate ourselves to strive to make anything happen outside of the norm. However, that's only one side of the coin, and I always think about like my dad, and I'm so thankful with like the lessons that he gave because he would tell me about the struggles, and I like know based on like family history that he had hardships or like a lot of obstacles in the way. However, every one of his stories is always like, and then I was working hard, and then I met somebody who like saw me working and then gave me another opportunity. So throughout, the narrative is one of there was a collective or community of people that helped raise me up and give me more opportunities.
Right.
And so within that, I just think that's a much more positive narrative that's almost like antithetical to the US, to like
Right.
United States
Right.
ideology, but one where you see that the community is important and that we help each other out.
Well, you know what's interesting too? The middle of the road racists in America,
Yeah.
they love to other immigrants and say that they're lazy and this and the other thing, and then go, well, so and so is one of the good ones because they came here and hustled and did blah 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 and like pulled themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yeah. And there's no such thing as that. Every immigrant community has an informal support network. You know, Chinese immigrants in the U.S. had Chinatowns, which were based on the like racism that kept them in those in those neighborhoods. But they still, you still helped out your own people within that. Same thing with the Irish. Same thing with the Italians.
Yep.
So all of these different immigrant communities, there isn't like the atomized one who magically made it without any help.
Right.
And it doesn't even have to be like just your tribe helping you, but you know, I just think of my dad's stories are all sort of people from all different walks of life, and this idea that you know, humans just in general, when you put out into the world the things that you want, will help you rather than being stingy with your words. This is another thing that like is somehow it's almost like The Secret, but it's like the American capitalist version of it is don't tell people what you want to do, don't tell people what you're working on because somehow they'll steal it or
Right.
somehow your that the magic of it will be dissipated by saying it.
Yeah, or the thing that's been beaten into my head forever is it'll get jinxed and then you won't have it. Which is a psycho thing that I deal with all the time. My parents always told me never tell anyone the thing that you're trying to do, which is literally the way to fail.
Yes.
Because the only way you can do it is by telling people, making it a reality, holding yourself accountable out loud, and or gathering support for it and resources for it to
Yeah,
make
this
it
is the
come
most
to fruition.
metaphysical episode we'll get into.
Yeah.
For me, pretty much a materialist, but I would say that your thoughts become words, and those words become
Actions.
actions, and everything is just vibrations, baby. And you know, sound is just a things traveling in a different vibration than a rock, which is also vibrating at a much slower frequency.
It's also a protective ego thing. Immigrant people, I think, had to develop an ego in order to get ahead and to do whatever. But I think that their ego gets bruised when they say they're going to do something and it doesn't happen.
You think so?
I
Yeah.
absolutely think so. I think they're obsessed with that. They're obsessed with people being like, oh, too bad that thing fell apart. The sting of failure is stronger when other people can acknowledge it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just not not the whole story. And so many things come from cooperation and
Yep.
collaboration with others and
100%.
putting it out there. You got to put it out there. All the great things that have happened to me in stand up were me putting it out there. Just being on the sidewalk after a show and saying, I want to open for, I want to go on the road and I want to feature. I want to open. I want to just go out on the road. And then 2 weeks later, the comic who was on the street calls me or messages out of the blue and is like, hey, do you want to come do this?
Yeah.
So, but that would not have happened if I had kept my dreams to myself.
Right.
Right. And then even the thing is like most dreams and ideas other people have thought of too. Everyone's lazy. So you
Yeah.
can literally tell people your script idea and no one will steal it. And even if they do steal it, they will write it differently than you would have written it.
Yeah. And
So
then you could be like, on such and such a date, I told you this story.
yeah, which is but whatever. Like Homelander is Superman, right?
Right.
Like all these, it doesn't matter, you know.
It's a derivation.
Yeah, Daredevil is Spider-Man, is the Punisher. They're all just vigilantes wearing tights.
Right.
So what are you gonna do? Say I stole an idea?
Daredevil kind of corny too. Daredevil just has batons and stuff.
That's right. That's right.
Something.
Non-lethal ninja. Dude, you told me this crazy thing, by the
Yeah.
way, to derail the Daredevil. Marketing wise, you said something.
Oh yeah. Oh, so that's so
very
amazing.
nefarious to me. Yeah.
So one thing that's for sure is that in the marketing world, marketers tend to approach the Hispanic audience with a narrative about hustle culture. And for Hispanic Heritage Month, you'll notice that a lot of the campaigns are around blood, sweat, and tears that the Hispanic community had to put in as immigrants in order for their kids to flourish. And it contributes to that very much, what we're just talking about. The
Yeah.
whole nature of the hustle. I had to give it all up. I had to sacrifice it. And sure, that's the case. For
Yeah.
damn sure. But people are kind of tired of it. The next generation is like, okay, that was our ancestors or the people before us. But what about us? Why do we have to be relegated to hustle culture? It's almost insulting.
Yes. And also to realize that we hold these things dear because we internalize them based on maybe hearing them from our parents. But it's not that they were lying, but that we're all telling stories. We all create a narrative that makes us feel better. And that narrative, after a while, becomes poison. It can be toxic. It can be weaponized against you. Hustle culture is being turned on us. And what you just said about marketers taking that idea and co-opting it, they're co-opting that idea for us to fucking buy Coronas and Bud Light Limes. It has nothing to do with actually working hard on something that is your passion, joy, or a project.
And moreover, why do they evangelize hustle culture? Because they want everyone to be part of the rat race and to believe in the hustle and to believe in grinding it out and busting your ass while time is finite and that we're all getting older and every dog has his day, right? So what is the evangelizing hustle culture? It's acknowledging that the world is a grim place where you now have to, I don't want to go tangential right now, but let's talk about hustle culture real quick. I'm listening to fucking NPR of all places. And, I respect them in some levels, but some things I don't like is how much they suck the dick of Joe Biden constantly. And one thing they were talking about was inflation, and they were talking about the price of everything is up. Well, hell yeah, it is. A sandwich became $19 now. How the fuck is that possible? In New York, you go to get a sandwich, they're like, oh, that's $19.75 or something. That's insane. And that's never going down. It does not matter what Joe Biden does or if inflation goes down. Sandwiches, if the going rate for a sandwich has become $19.75 and everyone is paying it despite having to have extra jobs now to afford it, that store is never going to decide to make the sandwich cost less now. What is motivating them to go like, all right, inflation's over. Sandwiches are $12 now again. Right?
Sure.
So this hustle culture actually makes it easier for companies to treat employees like shit and strip their benefits and take away things that they normally would get because of hustle culture, right? Well, just have a side hustle if you can't make ends meet, even though you're working full time here. That's what we're facing right now. We're facing a mass brainwashing via advertising that evangelizes hustle culture in the name of what? Commerce, sure. But how are you going to make that money? You're going to do the hustling that they are talking about is so great. That's what makes America great.
I just keep thinking about in Scarface when Michelle Pfeiffer's character looks at Tony and he's like, I worked so hard for this. I busted my balls for this. I did it all by myself. And she's like, I wish somebody'd given it to you so you'd be nicer. And he is he's an avatar for the what you become when you are just a hustler.
Totally.
Yeah, just a dude, just a dirty dude in a jacuzzi
Well,
puffing on
it's
a
a
cigar.
focus, right? Everything justifies.
And you don't even get to the top though, because he was just a cog. He wasn't Sosa.
Right.
Sosa is the person who already owns all the property is the guy who always wins.
Yeah,
The game is rigged, baby.
it is rigged.
So don't be Tony.
It's Monopoly. Don't be Tony.
Don't be Tony. Dude, I watched this movie. Can I tell you about it for a second?
Please.
Okay, so it's a Argentinian film, and it's called The Clan, and it's fascinating to me because if you just a brief summary is it's the end, it's that transition moment from the junta, the military government that was propped up by the United States government, and right as it's ending, we see this old man, this bureaucrat, come into a government office where he gets laid off, and you're like, oh, what's up with this sweet old man? And then he goes back to his house, which is in like a suburb of Buenos Aires, and he's surrounded by like his boys who are all like beautiful golden boy soccer players wearing Argentinian sweaters, and his wife, and you find out that he was one of the chief interrogators for the junta. So like during this regime and this police state, he was a man of means. He'd hustled his way to the top, kidnapping and torturing leftists. And now, in this new democratic government, he doesn't have a job anymore. But he's got to keep up with the Joneses. All of the other people in the suburbs, his kids go to private schools, and but like they can't demote. You know what it's like. That's so in America. If your parents lost their job and you had to like leave your community, oh, devastating.
Right.
So he starts enlisting his sons to help him kidnap the most wealthy people in their classes. And this just makes me think about whatever this movie is totally a cab in a roundabout way, because what I see is that any force that the state has, all the violence that the state has, is we push it out, but the minute but eventually it turns back on its own people.
Right.
The blowback of having a police state is at the minute that it gets
Dismantled.
those former cops
Become.
gangsters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think about this all the time. There's an article about the LA County Sheriff's Department and how they have a gang within them called Banditos. And in order to join Banditos, you have to kill a person on the street.
Wow.
And so sheriffs are actively looking for someone to kill as they go out on their raids and do their shit so that they can get this numbered tattoo, which includes them in the Banditos. And for anyone listening at home, the sheriff's department in LA is trying to clean up its act and its image, And so for this to come out, this was in New York Magazine, but I'm just telling you this because of what you said sparked that thought in my head.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so what if they actually gave a fuck? They don't. But if I'm like, where's the FBI on this, right? This is above the cops. You can't have the cops policing themselves if this is within that organization. It's like Copland, right?
Yeah.
But where is anyone on this? Where's Joey B? He loves to go on the stage and fall asleep mid-sentence and talk about how he wants to use the quote-unquote excess from federal pandemic relief money to bulk up the police in all these major cities. So he basically wants more banditos, And the long story short is, what if they did disband quote-unquote banditos? What do? They become the gangsters that they are just outside the police station.
Yeah, you got to arrest all the banditos.
Yeah,
You
but they're
can't
not
just
gonna.
let them go free.
Yeah,
to
but
go
they're not gonna, right?
Multiply their banditos.
So if they're like, you're all fired, you're all corrupt, you're fired, it's exactly what you just said. And so that's what happens. Like you said, the blowback comes through. Like to have a police state, right? Like the SS, where did they wind up? Argentina, bro. They went to Argentina, right? Like, where do the fucking secret police wind up? The KGB, where did they wind up? In the fucking Russian government.
Yeah.
Putin was KGB.
Well, a lot of so what is it? The Marshall Plan, which right after World War II, um, the best fighters, the best resistance fighters in France and Germany, to a degree, and Greece, and all these countries in Europe were the communists, because libs don't like guns.
Right.
Universally, libs are like compromising centrists. So they were like reaching, basically like cowards.
They're like, let's talk some sense into them.
Yeah. So like there, you know, if there were if there was like podcasting back then, there would have been like Pod Save America boys, just like, you know, on the sidelines in all during the occupations of all of these countries. But so the communists were there, and they were the frontline resistance troops that worked with the U.S. government and with the Soviets, along with like monarchists, which were like psychopaths,
Yeah,
who wanted to take things like conservatively in the other direction. But right after 1945, all of the communists got wiped out, which left the only people who understood law and order in all of these countries, or specifically in Germany, were the Nazis. So who do you? They became the cops in West Germany.
right.
Were like denazified, whitewashed Germans, but they were still like,
Yeah, honestly,
they just burned their party papers,
right?
You know, and their kids lost their minds when they found out this stuff, which is why in the late 60s and early 70s you had radical groups like the Bader Meinhof gang.
Bader Meinhof, man.
Yeah, dope Red Army faction dudes, the RAF, who were out there, you know, kind of having like a psychosexual Freudian rebellion against their parents, but also doing the work.
Yeah. And, coming after this was.
Yeah, exactly. Going after these like, you know, greatest generation former Nazis who had just been allowed to continue working in government.
Right. So we're talking about power vacuums, essentially.
Yeah.
And but, you know, at the end of the day, every country has its own version of the secret police.
Yes.
Right. And then every developed country likes to pretend that they abide by human rights law. I love to see the cognitive dissonance of American exceptionalism. We're so disgusted by what's happening in Ukraine, and we can have a movie about a predator hunting Native Americans.
Yes.
Who the fuck is a predator? The predator
is us.
Is us, motherfucker. Like,
yeah.
And that's the cognitive dissonance. I can't believe this predator is doing this. This is so unethical.
Yeah.
What? Like, how many towns in America have Native American names and like lakes named after? And they think they were welcome there. You're not fucking welcome there. You killed everyone.
How this is so crazy that I went to the Native American Museum in DC, and I went there with a friend, friend of the pod, Louisa came with me.
Yeah,
and we were like looking at all of the weapons in this one room, or all of the products, and every product in this room had a Native American name on it. But all the missiles, right, the Tomahawk missiles, and all the helicopters, and all the guns, and all of these
Apache. Oh my god.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So
I never even thought about this.
Every U.S. military piece of hardware has a Native American name on it, and it's like those were originally used to exterminate the indigenous peoples here, and then after they were gone, they just they just took their names. So we get so upset now at like a white guy with dreads, which, you know, is offensive.
It is annoying
aesthetically. But in some ways, I'd say like a lesser evil than taking a weapon of mass destruction and naming it after a tribe that you exterminated.
That is the most fucked up shit. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tomahawk, Apache, all these things.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me when you said that.
Hundreds of them.
So many.
Every one of the vehicles is named after a Native American tribe.
And that's the way they honor them. They're like, we murdered you all. So we thought we would name a thing that murders all the people after
Yes.
you that we murdered all of you.
Yeah, man. So it's bad. It's bad news.
It's very bad news.
I don't know. So I was watching The Boys, which ties into all of this. Have you been keeping up?
My man, I am caught the fuck up. I could not take my eyes off the screen. It was one of those things where I watched this season's first 3 episodes all in a row without the distraction of my phone. Like, I didn't even touch my phone.
Yeah,
I didn't even know where my phone was. That's how glued I was to this.
it's a perfect antidote to the MCU.
Yeah, boy.
And also to a degree like the DC universe, but I'm less well versed in that. All I've watched in the DC universe is Batman.
Yeah, Batman. Always.
Batman's.
Batman's.
I highly recommend it for everyone, and I'm just rewatching the first season and thinking about all of the aspects of it that really mirror the war on terror, and it ties into everything that we've been talking about. It's a perfect metaphor. Superheroes are a perfect metaphor for the military industrial complex, and also Vought. I think we find this out in season 2. So I don't care about your spoiler problems, listeners. I won't spoil season 3, but season 2's like, come on, man. This was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So Vought, the super soldier serum that makes these superheroes, was originated by a former Nazi scientist, and that is where Werner Braun was the head of our rocket programs here in the United States during the space race, and that dude was a former Nazi scientist.
That's right.
So when Germany fell, there was a race to collect, almost like baseball cards, to collect all the biggest brains and worst murderers in Nazi Germany,
And employ them.
Yes.
So and give them clemency.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you're not gonna hang or whatever or pay for your crimes.
Yeah.
Instead, contribute to our.
Yeah. Basically, everyone that was killed in these like show trials, I just assume was like an incompetent Nazi.
It's like a balloon head.
Yeah.
Like,
it was like tomato cans.
Oh, what's this guy's IQ? Never mind. Yeah, he can hang.
Yeah, dude. They killed the like lame ducks that weren't. They killed the Lincoln Chafies of the the also rans that were never gonna make it. And they kept all the smarties and they put them in little labs, and they gave them a bunch of acolytes to train.
Yep.
So when you look at like the U.S. had Operation Paperclip as well, and a couple other secret operations that I don't have the names to right off the top of my head, but Vought, when we look at The Boys, is reflecting a reality, which was that we got a lot of our science from the Nazi Germans.
Oh, absolutely. But I think this show, for those of you who have not watched it, it's unbelievable. And it took very little prodding for me to watch it.
Yeah.
I personally am not a superhero fan.
Sure.
I don't really watch the movies, and part of it is just I never got into superhero comics. I always got into the emotional and like weird comics, like the Peter Bag comics of the world.
Love Peter Bag.
And he's like a weird libertarian in real life. I talked to him once. I actually interviewed him. That's when I was like, oh, never mind. You're a strange libertarian. But, I love Peter Bag. I love things like that. I never really got into superhero comics. But when someone told me to watch The Boys, all it took was 2 episodes. And I realized I was hooked because it is the antithesis of the superhero concept. I mean, they're all villains essentially in one way or another, right?
Well, they're all cops.
They are. Yeah.
They're all amoral. They are real people who exist. They have human failings mentally.
Yes.
Even if their bodies are perfect, they are humans, and because our society incentivizes the most craven and selfish impulses that we have, they are all villains.
Yeah.
So it's not that they were born villains. It's not that they were made villains by some almost like superhero problem, like the Joker getting thrown into a vat of chemicals. Their villainy is the slow death by like 1,000 paper cuts, like alienation from other people, and like being celebrities. They've all been turned into rock star celebrities.
Yeah, and everyone's sucking their dick because they're celebrities and rock stars and what have you.
Yeah.
And so they essentially do whatever they want, and then there's cover-ups and cleanups for the things that they do
Yeah, the first
because they want to
season
keep up that image.
totally. The first season has a Johnny no, wait, sorry. It's got a Me Too scandal,
Right.
and you really see how that might play out, and how it echoes into things like Harvey Weinstein, where someone like Harvey it was protected for so long because he was the face of the machine that made all this money, and now we've got the Deep, and the Deep is also out here sexually harassing tons of people, and it's only once he exploits a peer of equal stature, but of more popularity, that he gets brought down.
Right.
And it's so funny because I was like thinking the Deep, Johnny Depp, which is another, because like the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing that just happened. I knew from the start not knew from the start, but Johnny Depp is going to win this because Pirates of the Caribbean is a bigger franchise. So it's got literally nothing to do with justice or it has everything to do with who does the machine benefit more from.
Yeah, and the popularity contest was really a big thing, I mean, like, everything that came out from that trial, I have to admit, was pretty humorous and interesting to hear because it was the salacious details, purposefully, right? It was
Yeah.
a story being told of how outrageous Amber Heard's behavior was.
Right.
The shit on the bed thing, right? That's what she's going to forever be known as.
Yeah.
I did see some articles about this topic that were like, this sets women back. This is horrible. People won't believe women. And I don't think that that's a good approach to this or to equate everyone to an Amber Heard.
Sure.
I think that there was definitely chaos in that relationship from what I could hear. And I think that there was evidence that Amber Heard was definitely hitting Johnny Depp too. But the conversation became about power dynamics. And, Johnny Depp could not be abused because he was stronger physically. He was older in age. These things prevented him from being abused, which is fucking insane to me. The conversation is stupid to me. It's like abuse does not have I mean, I understand power dynamics, right?
Yeah.
I understand that, but when it comes to physical assault, you can't just say that's not physical assault. That's fucking physical assault. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this case she'd already won in court.
Yeah.
And
in the UK, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this case was a libel case,
Mm-hmm.
saying that she can't say that he that he abused her,
Right.
and she never did.
She said she was a victim of domestic violence.
Right.
Violence.
Yeah.
But violence to Gen Z is everything. If you go like, I like 16 handles the frozen yogurt store, and they're like, that's violence, boy.
Yeah, but with her,
I'm like, yo, what the fuck?
But with her case, she just said she didn't name him. So this whole case was about him suing her to get his reputation back.
Mm-hmm.
When in fact she didn't steal his reputation. She just said I was abused at some point by someone, and the rest of the world inferred that it was him. But
Really?
it could have been. Yeah, she never said his name. So it's wild that she's getting in trouble for that. But how this relates back to PR, like everything you've heard is not because we have an objective media apparatus. It is all like PR, an army of marketers that have made sure that you've heard the narrative the way that they wanted it.
Right. But why? Like, I see what you're saying. It comes back to they want Johnny Depp back
To
in the
fucking
next
play
Pirates or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
And also, fuck pirates, dude. Everybody in the world likes pirates, but
I don't.
If you look at history, pirates were just slave traders.
Yeah.
So
They're never good.
they were never good.
Yeah, I do think that's funny, right? Because there's that show, the Taika Waititi show, is so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
I think the pirates, glorifying pirates, is wild because the people who glorify pirates would be the first people to get spit roasted.
by these, pirates were just like a bunch of weird, rapacious thieves on the sea that stole humans.
Yes.
So like New Amsterdam. I was on this boat,
I was
we're
gonna
talking
say,
about
you mean where we live?
the history of New Amsterdam, and it was settled in like 1620 something, and the first people to like clear the trees in what's now the financial district were a bunch of Africans who had been stolen off of a Spanish ship. So they were cargo, they were contraband on a Spanish ship that was like raided by a bunch of Dutch pirates.
Wow.
So it's not like and these pirates, these didn't liberate them to like make their lives better. They were
they
like
sold them in the slave trade.
yeah, they were like, cool, you're now our property, and now you're gonna cut down these trees.
Really
So
nice.
the origins of New York City, the first urban planning was the manpower of African slaves. Savage.
Who fucking loves pirates? Only
Yeah.
corn dogs.
Yeah.
Who would never stand a chance with pirates? Pirates are I'm your captain now. Pirates.
Yeah, this you know what it is, dude? It is just like that it's the immigrant story that the marketers are trying to get us to believe that like you got to hustle and grind is the same bullshit story about pirates that Lego is putting out there to get us to buy their Lego ships. Just nice smiling pirates without showing them like with a full belly of enslaved people in their ship.
Oh yeah.
Which would be the rawest Lego
That
set.
would be savage. I want to propose this. I wish Lego did a Nike ID type thing where you could be like, here's the ayahuasca Lego set. Here's the fucking pirate Lego set.
I want there to be Nike, when you like get a cup of coffee and they do the crop to cup thing or like bean to bar, where you can see a picture of the grower in Nicaragua for your coffee, to have like when you buy your Nikes, to have like the sweatshop.
Yeah. And just
have like a little
kid.
map and there's like a sweatshop and then like the face of the little kid that like did the stitching for you.
And they say this was made for $1.12 and we charge $145 for these sneakers.
Exactly.
I need to see that.
Yeah. So
by the way, you didn't help this kid. In fact, you're basically enslaving and imprisoning this child.
Boom. The
Yeah.
boys, man. I'm loving the show.
Hell yeah.
We're gonna keep going off on tangents with this, but other things that it brings up almost 9/11 was something I thought of watching the first season, because there's like a plane that goes down, and then after the plane goes down, because of the ineptitude of the superheroes, because cops are always inept.
Yes, they
and,
are.
And that's what that's what the heroes are. Really, they're just cops that can fly and have laser beams coming out of their eyes.
But they keep fucking up.
They keep
Do
fucking
their
up.
powers make it so that they fuck up and people die?
Yes.
Because they aren't controlled or anything. They're constantly fucking up. And so people are dying because these cops are flying cops are making mistakes.
They're making it worse. So then after the plane crashes, they spin a narrative saying that it was brought down by terrorists, and they need to justify being able to travel and operate outside of U.S. borders without congressional approval, which is basically what George Bush was doing when he decided he wanted to invade Iraq and Afghanistan.
Right.
You like take a crisis like 9/11 and then use it to justify violence abroad without
Getting
any
congressional approval.
Yeah.
And proving that it's validated or justified.
Yes.
And who benefits from that? VOT.
Yeah.
And VOT being the Lockheeds of the world.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
gangbusters. Horny as fuck. They guaranteed pop champagne when that happened.
So if you're upset though about violence, not you, but like I had somebody who said they watched the
I love
first
violence.
episode and
Don't worry about
they
me.
didn't like to watch the bodies blow up the way they did. Honestly, when I watch it, I want to eat like spaghetti with bolognese sauce. But
This reminds me of bolognese.
it is. It's a real wet. The violence on the show is very
Oh,
wet.
big time, yeah.
And very like spaghetti meat sauce.
Yeah, it is.
Gross.
It is, really is.
But comical. But what I found profound about it, and I think it is important to the aesthetic of the show, it's not violence for violence sake. The way that people die on the show and the violence is, it is a metaphor for how we are meat for the machine. You know, people who die on the show are basically ground up by the gears of modernity.
Yep.
You know, and that is very explicit. Whereas like when you watch Marvel movies, you know, people get punched and like fly through buildings or whatever, and it's more like wrestling. All of the violence on this show has an unglamorous and final feeling to it.
It does. I'm amazed by what you're saying right now. This is a lot of stuff I haven't thought about. Like you said, in Marvel, they get punched through a building and come out the other side, and then they get up and dust themselves off. But in this show, it's just goddamn hamburger.
Yeah, and it's always like in the middle of a conversation.
Yep.
Somebody will just get snuffed, and I think it is not glorifying violence, but showing you the sudden, jarring finality and almost the pointlessness of violence.
Yeah.
So, good job, the boys. And we only scratched the surface of this show.
Hell
so, people should watch it. I'm in love with it, and I'd love to hear your opinions, dear listener, on this show.
Shout outs to Seth Rogen's. Guy's amazing. He really made a great show.
Yeah, man. Well, we got to get to Funhouse Comedy.
100%.
Which we're doing tonight at Pete's Candy. Now, by the time you heard this, it'll be done. But we do the show every Wednesday,
dude.
Yeah, 10 p.m. So come on out and visit us IRL sometime soon.
Hell yeah. Looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, I'm Gabe Pacheco. You can follow me on Instagram at GabePack1.
And I'm Samir Nassim. You can follow me on Instagram at Samirmon, SAMEERMON. And now, for the groovy tunes of Serene Patel.
Brown Privilege.